and welcome to Vera's Recorder channel. Today I have 6 facts and a lot of tips for you about the high G on the alto recorder. I got this idea to make a video especially about the high G by a participant of a workshop about the Bach partita, which I gave the other day in German. And she said, "Oh, I can play the Bach partita, but I'm afraid of the high G because the response is not always very good." And she said, "You never made a video about the high G. Could you do that, please?" And of course, I would like to do this in English today for you. Some of these facts about the high G apply to many other high notes, but some facts are specific to the high G, and you will be positively surprised by them. Fact number 1, the high G does not need a lot of air. And that could really surprise you because you think, in order to play such a high note, I have to use a lot of air. But you can hear it doesn't sound very nice. And it even does not respond sometimes. In fact, you don't need much air for the high G. You need much more air for the very low notes on the recorder. The lower you play on the recorder, the more air you can use for it. But you have just to let the air go out very relaxed. Imagine like this. When you play a very low note, there is no pressure, you just let the air go out. Not save the air, but let a lot of air go relaxed out of your body, like if you had a very big stovepipe and there's space for a lot of air. Whereas when you go to the high notes, you must imagine the air going through a small funnel. A very small opening where you can blow your air, and so there's not much air needed, just a bit of air through this funnel. That's how you have to play the high notes, and this applies to all the high notes on the recorder, all the high notes with the half thumb here, and this also applies for the high G. Fact number 2 is the high G needs quick air, fast air. Think of shooting a small arrow. It has to be fast, but does not need much force. And that's like you must play the high notes. And the high G responds so easily and beautiful when your air is blown very quickly and with a lot of focus. Hi guys, short interruption. After having finished this video, I realized that I had forgotten fact number 3, which is please articulate the high G with a 2, like more than a do, because then it will respond much better. Because high notes need a small impulse, a starting impulse, so that it has a clear beginning. If you do it too weak, like do, then it will not respond. So you better tongue or articulate the high G with a 2. Fact number 4 about the high G. You should not just take these fingers to play the high G and a half thumb. So not only these fingers and these fingers, but the little finger also on half of the hole. You perhaps saw this already on the little image I show you here. And why is it? It has two reasons. Reason number one is that it sounds a bit better in tune, because if you only take these fingers without the little finger, the high G will on most of the recorders be a bit too high. Whereas if you take the little finger on a half hole, it sounds better. And I know on most of the images you see for the fingerings, it's without this little finger, but that's my experience as a professional player, to be in tune with the other instrument, and also when you play solo, of course. But I told you there's another reason. If you think now, okay, it's a little bit of difference, I can nearly not hear it, but I will let it, I will play it like this. Then I can tell you the second reason why you should do the little finger on the half hole, because then the response is much more easily. The high G goes much more easily when you play it with the half little finger. So that should be a good reason for you to learn it with this little finger. Fact number 6. Sorry guys, I meant fact number 5, not 6, of course. I definitely should have drunk more coffee that morning. And that's also about the response of the high G. The high G is much more easily to play than the high F. And that may sound contradictory to you, because you think the high G is even higher than the terrible high F. How can it be easier to play? But in my opinion, the high F is nearly the most difficult high note in response, whereas the high G goes very easy. That's also my experience on all the recorders I play. I wish that I can take the fear from you before the high G. Just try it. The high G is very easy to play in comparison to the high F. So don't be afraid that it should be more difficult just because it's higher. And I think even the fingering is easier to remember because it's so special. It's these two fork fingerings, how it is called, and then also the little half finger. But a high F, for example, is like one here and two fingers here, and then it's close to the high E, which is two fingers here and two fingers there. The high E flat is three fingers here, and that's all a bit the same in your imagination, whereas the high G is really different, and it's so special that you perhaps can remember it. Fact number 6, and the last fact for today about the high G, is that you come from the high G in a very easy and special way to the high F sharp or G flat. That's the same fingering, in a special way, because for the high F sharp you need the same fingering, exactly same fingering like for the G, but you also close this hole like this. You put the recorder on your leg, so you close also this hole, and that's the high F sharp or G flat. So perhaps you find this easy or very difficult. That depends on how sporty you are and how athletic, or I don't know. But in every case, please take care for your teeth that you don't lose your teeth with this high F sharp. Of course, when you play high notes, if it's the high G or other very high notes on a recorder, you need a recorder which is able to play these high notes. So it must be a reasonable good recorder. I remember times when I did not have a good recorder. I had a Möck-Rottenburg recorder, which are good recorders, but it was a bit damaged in this hole, and it was very old. I got it not second hand, but fifth or sixth hand. I don't know. And I was always afraid before the high F, which I think was not possible to play on that recorder. So you need a good recorder, and you need, please, the technique of playing with the thumb like this, to stretch it and do it like this with the high tones. So you can play exactly, and you don't have to be afraid if the high note responds or not. And of course, if you use this technique, which most of the professional recorder players use, your nail of the thumb must be short. If it's too long, you have no feeling for the high note, and it's not possible then. So please take a scissor for your recorder playing. And of course, it's very handy when you have a breath control, so you can control your breathing, your air, and how fast or slow you play the notes. I hope I could give you some useful tips today, and I hope you really want to play the high G now and other high notes. And if you want to be informed when I give workshops in English and courses in English, please subscribe to my English newsletter, which is here down in the description. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Thank you very much for listening today, and I hope I see you next time here on Vera's Recorder channel. Bye!